During his early political activism, the Deputy President has held various leadership positions, including joining the Congress of South African Students while studying at Alexander High School. Owing to his political activism, he was detained under the state of emergency regulations declared by the then apartheid state president P.W. Botha and spent more than 4 years in prison without trial. Whilst in prison, he then decided to pursue his academic studies. In 1992, he was appointed as Provincial Secretary of the South African Communist Party in Gauteng, a position he held from 1992 to 2010. In addition, the Deputy President has also risen through ranks of the African National Congress. He was elected the chairperson of the Gauteng province in 1992 and also elected as the Provincial Secretary of the African National Congress, a position he held for 6 years, and in 1998 he was the Deputy Chairperson of the ANC in Gauteng. The Deputy President Mashatile has vast experience in governance as well, where he held a numerous position in government as member of Executive Council. He was once a Premier of Gauteng Province from 2008 up to 2009. He then joined in the Executive at National as the Deputy Minister of Arts and Culture from 2009 to 2010, and he then became the Minister of Arts and Culture from 2010 to 2014. He also became the Chairperson of Appropriation Committee in Parliament from 2014 to 2016. In 2017, he was then elected as the Treasurer General of the party at the 54th National Conference. During his tenure as the TG of the African National Congress, he has also acted as the Secretary General and as well as the Deputy Secretary General of the ANC. He was a triangular. He was then sworn in as Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa on the 7th of March 2023, following his appointment to his role by President Cyril Ramaphosa. In this 7th administration, the President saw it fit to invite him once again to be the Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, can we be once again on our feet as we welcome our Deputy President as he comes to address us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Honorable Refilwe Mutsweni Tsipane, Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Honorable Pubalan Govenda, President of Salga, Councillor Faku. We were debating earlier on whether I should call you Alderman, but we were not sure that it started after many years in local government, but I think you're getting there. Minister in the Presidency for Planning, Minister Marupeni Ramokgopa, Honorable Ministers and Deputy Ministers who are in attendance, honorable premiers, members of the Executive Council, honorable House chairpersons, senior government officials, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to take part in this first three-sphere planning session of the National Council of Provinces for the 7th Administration, which is convened under the theme Towards an Oversight Agenda for the 7th Parliament, delineating key policy and oversight priorities for the NCOP in the 7th Parliament. Chairperson, one of the key objectives for convening this important session is indeed to delineate key policy priorities for implementation and oversight by the National Council of Provinces. During the opening address of the 7th Parliament, President Cyril Ramaphosa outlined three overarching priorities of the Government of National Unity, which are the following: driving inclusive growth and job creation, reducing poverty and tackling high cost of living, and lastly, building a capable, ethical, and developmental state. We have adopted the above three priorities because whilst we have made significant progress in the last 30 years of reducing poverty and inequality, we remain faced with challenges of a slow-growing economy, high unemployment and poverty rates, high incidences of crime, corruption and lawlessness, and a highly fractured society. Having noted the ongoing challenges that we face as the 7th Administration, we have taken a decision that we must invest in building a capable developmental state. A developmental state in our context is a state that will redirect resources towards job creation and ensure that people have access to ownership, economic opportunity, education, healthcare, and other basic services. More importantly, in a quest for a developmental state, we will continue to invest in building safer communities. Chairperson, building safer communities is not only a police or police responsibility, but it is a shared responsibility between the police themselves, communities, but also all sectors of our community or our society. In this regard, we urge citizens to work with law enforcement agencies to combat crime in our communities. We are also aware of the persistent issues of high levels of extortion. I'm sure many members have heard about these stories, especially in the Eastern Cape, very rife in Mthatha area, where there is extortion of one kind or the other. We will, Chairperson, through the JCPS cluster, bring together resources to put an end to these extortions and ensure that communities may conduct their businesses without fear or intimidation. We are equally going to embark on a program of cleaning cities, I know that sometimes people can take this as an activity that is not important, but cleaner cities are very important to attract investments in those cities. So we want to embark on this program. So we would like leaders in our various respective towns to launch even competitions about cleaning our cities. We will collaborate with the Minister of COCTA, but also SALGA, to form a committee that will conduct an annual assessment of the cleanliness of cities and present awards in this regard. Bear in mind, honorable members, that bontle ke botho. I don't know what it said in English. Bontle ke botho. This campaign has the potential to engage the private sector as well. And in fact, we have seen this work so well in provinces like Gauteng. Many of you realize in the past few years, the private sector came to the party, and they were part of this program of Bontle ke Botho, of cleaning our cities. This campaign has also the potential of ensuring that members of the private sector partner with communities at the local level to ensure that our cities are clean and safe. Honorable members, in realizing the vision of building a developmental, capable, and ethical state, we will vigorously implement the plan to professionalize the public service. And we will do so by investing capacity in the National School of Government, because we want to ensure that we continue to invest in modernization, the modernization of the state by introducing innovative solutions across government, particularly because we are currently living in the digital era. The whole world is going digital in many respects, and we as South Africa must not be left behind. Over the last 30 years, we have adopted progressive policies, and in this 7th administration, we are going to pay special attention to the speed of execution. This includes strengthening coordination through a refocused presidency as the center of government, by pulling together other critical government departments such as COCTA and National Treasury. Our intention, Chairperson, is to align planning and budgeting as part of implementing the district development model, which is premised on what we call one plan, one vision. And this we will do to achieve maximum results in building a better life for our people. Together with local government, we need to prioritize overcoming local capex funding gaps for infrastructure. For example, we are introducing a public-private partnership model in water supply with the National Treasury and Department of Water and Sanitation. This will ensure that we resolve the potential water crisis, as we have done in capping the energy and load shedding problems. It is very important, honorable members, I must emphasize that we need to act before there is a crisis. We know that we had challenges with electricity, we got into load shedding problems, so we want to prevent crisis in water. That's why we're acting very fast to ensure that we don't really get to a crisis. We know there are some areas or communities where they now have some problems of water, and we need to act fast to be able to deal with those problems. Through the DDM, for instance, in Waterberg, together with the private sector participating, we are making much needed interventions to create opportunities for the communities there. In eThekwini metropolitan area, we have been resolving the water crisis to the extent that we are beginning to see much needed changes in the functioning of the municipality. I had an opportunity as well to visit the eThekwini municipality and their areas there to see what they are doing, and indeed, at the time I got there, they had started with intervention to ensure that we don't get to a water crisis. Now, Chairperson, together with the Minister of Water and Sanitation, we will be visiting Giyani to assess the state of progress in ensuring that people have water in that part of the province. I'm happy that MEC Bioscope is here. Ntaben famba na wena loki ya laya. Tabona kurbanu fane ba kumamati. Tatani Bioscope. Itafika laya Giyani. This is going to be the modus operandi because we want to ensure that we do not have crises, whether it's energy or water or whatever. So we need to have this intervention where we go to these areas where there are challenges, we look at what the problems are, but more importantly, we resolve them. So we don't do joyrides. We go to the areas because we want to resolve these problems. Honorable members, the successful implementation of the district development model lies in the speed of execution as a modus operandi which should be adopted across all spheres of government. In specific terms, we need to ensure that from the point of view of the executive at all levels, we entrench the discipline of getting things done. In this regard, we are working on measures that will ensure the introduction of legislation by the executive in Parliament and ensure that this is done timeously. Equally, we are ensuring that when bills are introduced in the National Assembly, they must have followed all compliance processes so that the constitutionality of the proposed legislation is not compromised. The issue you are raising with me, National Chairperson, that you get involved in a lot of litigation because sometimes bills are not processed properly, following all necessary processes. So we are going to ensure that that happens. Honorable members, as we gather here today, we must ensure that we sharpen and crystallize a common understanding of the three overarching policy priorities of this seventh administration. We must equally develop a common appreciation of a monitoring, implementation, and evaluation framework which is in line with the Intergovernmental Framework Act to realize the theme of this planning session. Chairperson, this year, 2024, marks 70 years since the adoption of the 1954 Women's Charter. At the height of legislated and colonialistic oppression in South Africa, women united across race, gender, and ethnic lines to adopt and legitimize the Women's Charter, demonstrating their resilience and leadership role. Today, many South African women, as we know, are subjected to poverty, unemployment, gender-based violence, and femicide. During this seventh dispensation of our Parliament, we must deepen the struggle against gender-based violence and femicide and ensure gender parity in government, in business, and all sectors of our society. We must not only acknowledge the plight of women, but we need to implement concrete action plans and programs to empower women, to empower the youth, and also to empower people with disabilities. As we look towards the future of our nation, it is important that we set clear policy priorities and strategies to ensure effective oversight and governance. The Seventh Parliament holds the responsibility of guiding our nation towards prosperity, inclusivity, and sustainable development. The oversight function of the NCOP is vital in ensuring that government service delivery is efficient, equitable, and responsive to the needs of our people. In delineating the key policy and oversight priorities for the NCOP, we must focus on three fundamental spheres of planning: the legislative, the executive, and public participation. We must ensure that laws uphold the principles of justice, equality, and the rule of law through robust legislative oversight. I know, Chairperson, that this is time-consuming. It takes time to ensure, go out there, engage with communities, but it must be done. It's important that we get our people involved. In keeping with Parliament's strategic vision, the Seventh Parliament must be driven by tangible efforts to respond to the demands of the people and be driven by the objective realization of a higher quality of life for all South Africans. Honourable members, the people expect us to work together as different political parties to achieve our country's development priorities as outlined in the National Development Plan. It is in this context that political parties that participated in the 2024 elections and received seats in the national and provincial legislatures pledged to cooperate through a voluntary government of national unity. To achieve the goals of the National Development Plan, Vision 2030, it is imperative that we as the Seventh Administration continue our collaborative efforts, serving as a crucial pillar that guides our developmental strategy. We must make it our mission to promote fixed capital investments, industrialization, job creation, and also work hard towards the improvement of our people's lives. Therefore, in the next 5 years, our strategic priorities are to create inclusive economic growth and job creation. We aim to uphold and enhance the social wage while also constructing an ethical and progressive state. Chairperson, we will be unveiling the medium-term development plan as soon as Cabinet approves it. This medium-term development plan will set out a well-defined vision and strategy that outlines clear goals and includes specific, measurable objectives and a roadmap for achieving them over the next 5 years. Therefore, we need to use the medium-term development plan to continue to make strategic investments in individuals as well, particularly through education, skills development, but also adequate health care. Furthermore, we must strive to improve our community's spatial perspectives by ensuring that the National Spatial Development Framework is implemented at all levels of government. And we must do so as outlined in Chapter 8 of the National Development Plan. As a seventh Parliament, we have a responsibility to oversee the performance of government departments and other state organs, as well as ensure accountability and transparency in government actions across all spheres. This is a responsibility of members of Parliament, members of the NCOP and the National Assembly to ensure that this happens. Together in our distinctive, interdependent and interrelatedness, we hold the responsibility of guiding our nation towards prosperity, inclusivity, and sustainable development. Through the Intergovernmental Relations Framework Act of 2005, we collectively have a responsibility to coordinate and facilitate intergovernmental relations at all levels, as well as further develop mechanisms and procedures to facilitate integrated planning, address implementation disjunctures and duplications in planning and budgeting. In fact, we must do everything in our power to eradicate duplications and ensure that we align planning and budgeting. Chairperson, in my capacity as the leader of government business, I pledge to this House that the executive will always be accountable to Parliament. To Parliament, in other words, the National Assembly and the NCOP, which houses the people's representatives. You are the people's representatives, and we must make sure that we as the executive accounts to you as the people's representatives. We must ensure that we facilitate and deepen executive accountability by ushering in a new culture of cooperation between the NCOP and the three spheres of government. This cooperation should be based on a shared commitment to better the material conditions of our people, but it should also be rooted in a deep reverence and respect for the people who elected us to serve. Furthermore, policy making and legislative processes require active participation, as we indicated earlier, to hear the views of our people, to address their concerns as citizens. We must strive to create meaningful channels for engagement and dialogue fostering a culture of transparency, responsiveness, and accountability. And I know, Chairperson, that the NCOP does programs like going out to communities, in fact, taking the NCOP to communities. Those are very important programs that keeps us in touch with the people. It is therefore most commendable that the NCOP has created this strategic platform to address three-sphere planning disjunctures and anomalies. This platform now presents a poignant opportunity to articulate the critical imperative of elevating the status and importance of joint planning. We have been talking a lot about joint planning, including introducing the district development model. It's important that we must see to its implementation. Within this context, I wish to issue a clarion call to members of the executive across all three spheres of government to heed the call for joint and integrated planning, budgeting, and implementation as facilitated by the DDM. I know that there are some people who don't like the DDM, but we're going to implement it. Yeah, some people will say, it won't work. It is working. It is working. We are going to make sure that it works. Chairperson, the second call I'm making to the three spheres of government is to ensure effective activation and functionality of all relevant IGR structures and fora across the three spheres of government, particularly as they relate to the operationalization of the DDM, which the President has asked me to lead. So it is working. Honorable members, given the current levels of poverty and inequality in our country, it is both urgent and imperative that we do away with silos and individualistic ways of working. It is only through a unified and integrated planning and budgeting implementation approach that we will be able to address the challenges facing our nation. Gone are the days where we plan separately, we budget separately, we try and implement separately. That is not working. If there's something that's not working, it's that one. We need now to integrate our planning, budgeting, and implementation. And the DDM is the way to go. Thirdly, Chairperson, I also wish to inform members of the executive across the three spheres of government to expect a continuation of structured engagements between the National Executive and the National Council of Provinces, in particular on critical issues affecting provinces. Part of our responsibility as leader of government business in Parliament is to introduce measures to improve the quality of legislation by the executive to Parliament. So it's not just that we will bring legislation timeously and make sure that legislation is passed, but we must ensure that the quality of the legislation is proper. So that's what we're going to do. And then secondly, we will ensure that we monitor the implementation of these pieces of legislation. I'm very pleased, honorable members, with the NCOP's performance in processing legislation during the sixth Parliament. Only 5 bills lapsed in the NCOP during the sixth Parliament, but they have since been revived and currently before the NCOP committees. So I think we must commend the NCOP for that. I therefore encourage the current NCOP, all of you, the new ones, the new delegates, to focus more on the consideration of processing of priority legislation, including bills with constitutional court deadlines. There are various pieces of legislation, as we know. Others are as a result of the courts, particularly the Constitutional Court. Others are priority legislation because of the areas where this legislation is required. So we will be working with yourselves to ensure that these priority pieces of legislations are implemented timeously. Chairperson, we will continue to encourage members of the Executive Council to avail themselves when called to appear before parliamentary committees and fulfill their constitutional obligations. I must say, Chairperson, that we do have a challenge that we will try and resolve with the presiding officers, is really the scheduling. And members of the executive have been raising this with me, that on Wednesdays in the main we have cabinet meetings, cabinet committees. So when they are called to come to committees on that day, it becomes a bit of a challenge. But we're going to sit down and look at how we will try and align our work so that we don't want members of parliament, whether it's NCOP committees or National Assembly, to feel that the executive is disrespecting them by not appearing before committees. So we just need to deal with the scheduling problem. Furthermore, we are committed to working with the NCOP to facilitate social compacting between the National Council of Provinces and the leader of government business, which is critical for accelerating the transformation agenda. By working together through social compacting, the NCOP and the leader of government business can streamline legislative processes, enhance oversight mechanisms, and foster cooperation on key issues affecting transformation. We must ensure that the NCOP conducts oversight over all critical IGR structures towards the operationalization of the DDM. All spheres of government must be ready to cooperate and work together for the realization of a better life for all. I emphasize work together because it's very important. If we are to realize a better life for all our people, we must work together. Honorable members, as I conclude, I want to urge all of us, let us pledge to uphold the values of honesty, diligence, and dedication to our country as we set out to create an oversight agenda for this 7th Parliament. Let us work together in unity across all party lines and government levels to protect and uphold the principles outlined in our Constitution. We are aware that parties by their very nature are competitive. We compete for support. Everybody wants to be in power, and you can do that by displacing others. But there is a time that we must understand we are here to serve. Our people have put us here to serve. And that's where we need to cooperate. We need to work together to ensure that we serve our people. There will be time when we go back to elections, where we campaign, we compete, but you must remember there is time to serve. And when we are called upon to serve, let's do that with diligence. Let's do that and focus to ensure that our people can indeed have a better life. We can, Chairperson, work together to create a future that is equitable, prosperous, and sustainable. Let us take this chance and run with it with compassion, with vision, a clear vision, but also a determined resolve to succeed. That's what we need to do. And I would like to thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to come and emphasize the need to work together, to plan together, to implement together, but also for me to be able to say to the NCOP, do your work of oversight without fear or favor. Hold us accountable. Chairperson, we will not sulk. We will not have problems if you hold us accountable. You must do that with determination with all the members of this House. Thank you very much, honorable members. NCOP Wakens.
Thank you very much. You may be seated. Councillor Sinene, Deputy President. And indeed, as this House, we are quite delighted and comforted to hear from the executive arm of our government that the values and the principles of the Intergovernmental Relations Framework Act, as espoused in Section 4, which provides that the national government, the provincial government, and local government, and all organs of states will then be facilitated in a manner that they work together in a much more coherent and seamless approach. We want to say, however, Deputy President, this would not be possible for as long as we have not made a concerted effort to drive the amendment of the PFMA and the MFMA to enable the central apportionment of financial resources to drive the coordinated and integrated delivery of services as is envisaged in the DDM model of our respective district. And we are saying that the approach of one district, one budget, one plan is the way to go. And therefore, as we are doing our work, particularly in the 7th dispensation, we need to have this foresight of saying, how then do we begin to develop reforms that precisely would address the issue not only of the operationalization only, but also the financial aspect thereof, of our various districts, so that they can respond appropriately to the work that is besetting them. We want you, Deputy President, to take that with you, as well as our premiers, particularly at the national level, where we are calling for a reform that will enable just that to happen in all honesty in all our spheres of government. Having said that, once again, we really appreciate for having been honored by the leader of government in the executive to come and address the members of this house, as well as our respective provinces, as well as our respective municipalities. I am told, Deputy President, that there is a photo shoot that has been arranged just here outside in the foyer, where all the special delegates and the permanent delegates, our premiers, our MECs, our speakers, our deputy speakers, at an exclusion of administration. It's not me. That's what I've been told, that administrators are not invited in this regard. So, and immediately after that, we'll then proceed to lunch, which is prepared according to the program. It is planned for 30 minutes, but I just want to be generous, given the fact that we will be taking time for photo shoots. Let's come back, take 45 minutes lunch, which then means that we should be back here around 1:45, somewhere there. Thank you very much once again.
The picture will be on the NCOP steps.
Okay, I'm told that there's a change of plans. The picture will then be taken at the NCOP entrance. Thanks.